Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming to Effective Community Engagement with ArcGIS Hub. Something is a little loud. He told me it'll sound better. Hopefully it will. This is a little loud. My name is Daniel Fenton. I'm a software engineer on the ArcGIS Hub team. As I mentioned, I'm out of the Washington, D.C. R&D Center. And I want to go over a few topics with you today. I want to talk about how ArcGIS Hub came to exist, how we've seen communication evolve through GIS, and through our core offering of initiatives and building and sustaining engaged communities, and talk about an example from the U.S. Forest Service that really illustrates what a good initiative and good community engagement looks like. And then I'll leave some time at the end for any questions that might come up. I'd like to talk about ArcGIS Hub and how the product evolved through working through our customers. It's been a journey since we started this application as open data back in 2014. And I want to talk about a framework of engagement around GIS that we've observed and that we're kind of latching onto. ArcGIS Hub is an easy-to-configure cloud platform for organizations to collaborate with their communities. Does this sound a little better? You can hear me through this? Okay. ArcGIS Hub is an easy-to-configure cloud platform for organizations to collaborate with their communities to accomplish information-driven initiatives. So that's the concept of Hub. And it's powered by ArcGIS Online. It's available to enterprise customers through ArcGIS enterprise sites, at least a portion of it. And we'll touch on that more at the end. But we didn't start with initiatives and communities. It started as open data. It's a way for ArcGIS Online customers to share their data applications with the public. This was really successful for us. There are thousands of sites out there, different levels of government, private sector, nonprofits, all over the world. And it was the beginning of our sites offering because customers needed a way to showcase their content under brand guidelines, custom URLs, and things like that. This map here just shows some of our coverage around the world. It's actually cutting things off so you can't see that there's actually a lot of usage in Asia and growing usage in Africa as well. So we saw customers from a range of industries sharing their data and their applications online. And the national level, we've seen federal agencies, regional collectives, and even entire countries like Kenya Open Data, which is one of the most popular sites out there built on the ArcGIS Hub platform. There's a huge amount of local sites. So most of our customers are actually county and municipality. Tons of great examples out there. If you look at hub.arcgis.com and click on the Sites tab for search, you can see all over the world in different sectors, but local is definitely the biggest one. And then kind of department level and bureaus. We saw this use and we kind of followed our customers and what they were doing. And that's when we figured out that we should have additional pages. So we launched the configurable pages to help customers out that were using sites, not just have a home page that you can configure, but kind of like a full site map to communicate with your community. Looking back, we thought this was great. It was, really did a good job for data transparency, but it wasn't enough. So we kind of stepped back and observed what our customers were doing, looked at their creativity, and we started to see things that to us, it seems obvious today. And that's that customers were going along this engagement maturity path, which you're seeing the beginning of. Starting with sharing data through ad hoc mechanisms like FOIA. Sites are largely focused on journalists, researchers, activists, people in business. Unlock this channel of one-way communication. And then we had kind of growing formalized structure of sharing data with the public, which increased accessibility to data and applications for whatever use cases people had, and started unlocking a channel of creativity, which is the constituents, the users of these sites. We see examples of people doing amazing things out, publishing on the internet just because they're interested in a topic, and these open data sites are what enabled it by giving them the raw materials that they needed. So I started to see some really interesting things. So, customers working with their constituents began doing more with the tools that we had given them. So, Loudoun County launched county initiatives to highlight projects that they were focusing on, and this is even before we had all the hub concepts of initiatives. We actually saw this growing out of our customers, like the city of LA. They had their initiatives like Vision Zero. So we're latching on to something that existed out there in the world and trying to formalize it and build software around that to make it more productive. Brampton, Ontario began telling stories around their projects and launched an entire section of their site devoted to hearing feedback, which is a really important part of community engagement, is seeking and receiving feedback. Johns Creek launched their data initiatives and crowdsourcing applications. So you just see people doing more with the tools that we had given them, which start out small with sites and pages. And then this culminated in a desire from our customers to get feedback on what they're doing. Just don't put things out into the world and then don't hear back what's going on. Hear ideas about what to do next and leverage their audience to help along the way. We started hearing this theme from our customers that they needed a way to quickly and easily bridge the gap between their front-facing websites, web properties, and their GIS infrastructure. So they've had these great tools, apps, and maps and data, and they needed to get it out to the public. But they needed a system that would help them inform their audience, listen to feedback, monitor their project progress, and all while staying directly tied to their existing GIS infrastructure, leverage the investment that they've already made. These tools are being used by governments as actually doing their job. DPW, when they plant a tree, they're using, or that's actually DOT in DC, but when they plant a tree, they're actually using these same systems to manage that and then publishing a public interface out of those very same government systems, which is just really efficient. So we have these two themes of starting to get direct audience involvement and bridging communication gaps between web properties and GIS infrastructure. And these two together was the genesis for the hub that you see today. So we have an example of the city of Raleigh using their hub to maintain their custom branding, so fit in with the existing web properties that Raleigh already has, align with their the goals of that property, stay linked to their GIS infrastructure. So surveys are powering dashboards, and you have this good cycle there, and together building bridges of communication, seeking feedback from their audience. So these kind of key themes that we repeat and you see in our templates, like inform, listen, and monitor, all key parts of the engagement picture. So we see this growth along the engagement maturity path. With ArcGIS Hub release, we saw new opportunities, and going beyond authoritative data analysis to analysis, policy, actions, and applications. We see this have this organizational structure for hub initiatives where we have different departments that are working together. And when you do this well, it unlocks new capabilities along with team collaboration. And for us, our primary tool here has been initiatives, which help kind of bind everything together. Your inform, your listen, your monitor, your websites, your applications, your maps, and your teams. That's kind of the binding glue. But it's also together with the goals that you have. So I want to talk about initiative thinking, and before you launch an initiative, there's kind of a mindset that you have to get into. So we say initiative thinking is considering the most external consumer of your work and clearly communicating an engaging goal. So it's okay to start with the inward-facing viewpoint, just what your organization thinks, but you need to work outward to understand what your community is thinking and what do they understand. So just kind of an example that we use, kind of a simple question, maybe a complex answer. You say, how was your day? You think about how you might answer that. Don't be the person that is just saying it was pretty good. No context. You're not thinking about your audience. It's a very internal way. I know it's pretty good because I know everything that went on there. But thinking about your audience, is it your coworker, your significant other, your 5-year-old? Is it Jack? Just thinking about example, like I'm a software engineer on the Hub team, so I do a wide range of things. But one of the things I do is make sure our releases go out smoothly. So kind of focusing on our two potential audiences for talking about what I might do in a day, like a coworker and significant other. To the coworker, I might say something really detailed, like I ran our weekly release, but it had some issues with a failing E2E test due to a late Monday night commit by, I'm not going to pick on Tom. I've already picked on Tom. Daniel did this one. And it caused an hour delay. So this is going to make sense to one audience. It's not going to make sense to another. So if I'm talking to my significant other, if I don't want her to fall asleep while I'm talking to her and ignore everything I'm saying, I have to make it make sense for her. So, saying things like we try to release features once a week and we have robots to help us determine if what we're releasing is broken. One of them failed today, which caused an hour delay as we track down the issue. So different audience, different context, a different message. So it's important to be communicating with the right language to these different audiences, and keep that in mind when you're publishing your website. So when you're working on your initiatives, you want to think about the most external consumer, right? They have no context. Perhaps they're a resident in the city, but they're definitely not an employee. If it's a public initiative, an employee in your department. Now, it may be an internal initiative, in which case the person with the least context may be a fellow employee. But it's important to keep those things in mind, because this is a communication job first and foremost. We wanted to apply this most external audience to this statement. Considering them first, the audience with least amount of context, communicating the goal. Why does this other thing matter? It was because we were trying to accomplish releasing these features. You don't want to be a subject of a Twitter thread like this. Kate Rabinowitz is she works for Washington Post now, but is kind of like a really active person in DC, uses a lot of the data. And you can't, she points out you can't talk about your work to the public like you do your colleagues. Right? She's saying, complaining about how this thing is named, this totally internal name because it made sense to your GIS department, that it was the, land cover record 1999, whatever, right? But that doesn't make any sense to the general public. If you're publishing something for non-technical users, even within your organization, these things that you feel totally comfortable with and are totally immersed in are not going to make any sense to the external audience. This happens all the time. So we're not making this up when we say you got to think about the external user. Here's, in Kate's words, you need to present it in the language of the user if you want your open data, but this also applies to, the goals that you're pursuing, your applications, and always thinking about that external user. So you want to ask these key questions. So it's, who am I trying to reach? How am I trying to do it? When are they available? And what do they want to know? And the answers to these questions will tell you about your audience, your fellow colleagues, branch leadership, broader agency, other agencies, general public. Considering the audience of your initiative informs everything from the design to the content, messaging of your goals. So I want to now talk about the other side of initiative thinking, which is clearly communicating and engaging goal. So we have a lot of aspirational goals out there with initiatives like reducing homelessness or reducing traffic congestion, improving water conservation. All of our organizations have goals that we're trying to reach. sometimes these aspirations may make sense to you, but they're too ambiguous for an external audience, or they're too utopian, or never ending. A lot of other problems why they might not resonate with the community that you're trying to reach. So what we want to do is translate your aspirations into concrete initiative goals. A goal might be to use less energy or reduce traffic congestion, and all of these can translate into like specific numbers that people might understand. Like your average wait in traffic is 5 minutes less than it was a year ago. That's something that people can understand and they can get behind. It's understandable when broad goals are required, but so they're difficult to measure, and they're hard for your audience to understand. So you want to be specific, right? So 5 minutes less in traffic, or the analog of I want to run faster. More specific is I want to run the 40 in under 5 seconds. I'd like to run the 40 in less than 7 seconds. I think that'd be pretty good. But that's specific and measurable, right? I know if I've achieved it. One that I'm communicating to would also know if I've achieved that. The goals don't have to be carved in stone. You can be flexible with them, communicate changes to your audience openly. The goal for the tram this year might have been, so much revenue, but, the road got washed away by all the rain. So that goal has changed. Communicate why, be transparent when things change. It's important to be honest and be realistic and show that you're meeting progress towards goals and adjust when you need to, and kind of set milestones to check in. Do you need to adjust? Is it still realistic to expect a 5-minute reduction in traffic time? So it's not required, but attaching timelines or end dates to your goals can help establish a roadmap and a sense of urgency. We want to do this year. And there are behavioral psychology tricks that are working in your favor here. So even the most engaged participants will tire out if they don't see the end of the race. That's why setting a goal will help keep them energized. And a winning sensation really helps people feel like they've accomplished something, helps them accelerate momentum towards success. So, this should go without saying, but you should set goals that you're actually committed to pursuing. This will help you, drive the specificity and measurability. And emotions shift, but commitment means you're staying true to your goals, even after the initial excitement from setting those goals has faded. So, everyone has a New Year's resolution to go to the gym, set with good intentions. Very few are committed. So when in doubt, remember that your initiative goals should be SMART, which is specific, measurable, attainable, reconfigurable, and time-oriented. By now, hopefully you figured out this time period what your goals are, what your initiatives are. So we want to bring that together actually using the ArcGIS Hub product. So what are Hub initiatives? Initiatives are really like an organizing concept for many other things that are in the Hub product. So we've got mobile responsive websites and pages. They're organized around clear goals. They're custom designed to fit your branding, shared to the right audience. And I'll add to this applications, maps, surveys, data. All of these are part of the building blocks of your initiative content, which is going to be communicated to your external audience. So these things are powered by teams of people, internal agency colleagues, trusted external collaborators, third-party authoritative data sources. All of these come together to power your initiative. And then your team can be really broad. It's coworkers, leadership, so lateral, up, down, volunteers, other collaborators. But the teams are important. So, like I said, it's not just the sites and the pages, but there's all kinds of content that are embedded, charts and web maps and story maps and dashboards and documents and data. All of these content pieces that were part of the genesis of ArcGIS open data are still resident and kind of being organized here with initiatives. So within these, you can also launch events and messaging campaigns. So this is like real, like external touch points, even bringing people together in the real world. From the diagram, you can see that you can, or maybe you can't, but you can have as many initiatives as you like in the hub. Just remember that SMART acronym. We're going to unpack and talk about the front door of your initiative. So the face of your initiative is a custom website designed by you. We did a lot of the heavy lifting to make this really easy and give you a WYSIWYG editor, which means what you see is what you get. And we support fully custom branding so that you fit in with any of the other web properties that your organization may have, fonts and colors. All those things are configurable for your initiative site. Your initiative sites and pages are bundles of their own resident content, but also other pieces that are in your ArcGIS organization, like charts, dashboards, surveys, data, other things. To the right, you see a Vision Zero initiative broken down into these different components. So, your banner, your narrative, talk about performance. Those are charts that are built in, apps that are shared, the data catalog, maps, ways to engage, like events, and then who are the collaborators, who are the people that are making this thing happen. And so here are 4 kind of live customer examples from around the world. The city of Zwolle in the Netherlands, Raleigh, North Carolina, Loudoun County, Virginia, Africa GeoPortal. And send this out, and the URL on this page will take you to a gallery that has all the other sites. So if you go to hub.arcgis.com and search, you can see all of the public sites, initiatives, pages, all of those things are available to you. But if you look here, there's a range of initiative goals and customers. So it's not just like a city, municipality thing. We focused on that market first, but are broadening out to other industries, other use cases, different levels of government as well. These are just some of the initiatives here that I just mentioned, those places around the world. So as I said, customers range from national governments, regional governments, local governments, distributors, commercial companies, nonprofits. It's really kind of getting wider as the product gets older. So just some final tips and tricks for designing your first initiative. Don't reinvent the wheel. There are a lot of sites and pages that are already out there. We've spent a lot of time and effort in building templates into our application and find examples where people have been successful. Leverage existing internal work and repackage it. Tap into your agency's existing mission, vision, and objectives. In designing things, we make a range of assumptions, many of which are wrong, or might be wrong. But to kind of recover from these errors, it's important to test things on trusted audiences beforehand. Share it internally. Share it with someone who's representative of that most external constituent that we talked about. Share it with your 5-year-old. Share it with Jack. You can go the extra mile, clone your initiative, change a few things, and A/B test them to see which one resonates best. There's cloning features built in, so take any site, clone it as another one, make some small change, share it out. Test things kind of scientifically. So it's one thing to know your audience, but it's another to present the content to them from their own viewpoint. So it's important to get in the mind of the viewer. As much as possible, you want to center the content of your initiative around that person's viewpoint. Use visualizations to make complex statistics more interesting. So centering around the viewer might be, making sure that the app that you have featured has geolocation built in so that they can see what's going on at their house. Or visualizing statistics, you're basically applying your expertise on top of the data that you may already understand just from looking at it and you know it, but you're applying a layer of expertise when you visualize something as statistics, and that makes it easier to digest. We call it a higher level information product than just raw data. Picture's worth 1,000 words. And that's because it holds a viewer's attention longer, and it's easier to understand. Universal communication language is visual. For example, story maps are great visual storytelling tools, and those work well in the Hub initiative context. And then some things to remember about calling for participation. It should be at a glance. If you want people to participate, don't bury that 4 pages deep. And you're like, oh, no one ever actually participated. It's because they didn't know that they could, and you didn't put that right up front. Put the lead up front, put it in multiple places, and kind of do the 1-sentence test. Make sure that any viewer could understand your initiative's goal in a single sentence. That's something really easy to test on other people that might be part of your audience. Just, can you describe it in a single sentence? That's what we did up front with how we described Hub as a configurable cloud platform. That's our 1 sentence to try to communicate what this thing is, and you should have the same for your initiative. So when in doubt, turn to your woes. So websites, ops dashboard, events, surveys, story maps, all really useful pieces of context. This presentation is a collaborative effort between many product engineers, and I did not come up with that acronym for the record, but it's not bad. I mean, got a groan, a laugh. It's okay. I want to talk a little bit about the initiative community. Obviously, you don't have to worry about the community part of the initiative if you don't want to. If you only want to present things in one way and you're not actually looking for feedback, I mean, that's a real use case. And communities take work, but they're really beneficial once you get them going. You have kind of a life force, if you will. As we're working on the Hub and working with our customers, we see this growth along the engagement path, where we have, an initiative goal and an audience selected. That's organizing, your data around and other content around initiatives. We've got a team of people to help manage the site apps and maps. It's not just a lone, GIS analyst or administrator. The product is meant to be used in collaboration with multiple people in your organization and outside your organization. We're working alongside our customers, and we're working with them, to build this product to help them achieve greater engagement maturity. We build a community, building and sustain a community of viewers, participants, and collaborators, kind of unlock these last stages of engagement and get to our gold star of frequent audience interaction. It's not just one way. You have people that are actively participating, and you start to get valuable crowdsourced collaboration. Like this sidewalk is cracked right here in front of my house, or this 301 request was not fulfilled. All kinds of use cases where you want to tap into the work and the free labor of your community, because they're doing it, they're participating because it's important to them as well, and they understand and they're bought in. Even more than initiative thinking, though, that building a community can be difficult to approach. So try to kind of simplify it. Kind of be a journalist when you're thinking about this. Find the answers to the 5 W's and how. Which you might already have done this thanks to your initiative thinking, but the first stop is who are you reaching out to? You should have a good idea already, but are there cohorts in your target audience? Different kind of segments of people who may be viewers, or they're commenters, or volunteers, or collaborators. Who are these people? Now that you've had 2 to 3 seconds to think about that, hopefully you have a detailed understanding of your full audience now. So what do you want from them? Don't waste their time. Think about that 1-sentence test. Does it make sense to them? And remember that they might have really limited initial context. Like, our significant other, when we're talking about E to E tests and things like that, they have no idea what that means. Just a tip of the trade is book in your content with the ask. What are you asking from your community? Do you want them to take a survey? Well, put the survey at the top. You can put the button right at the top, and then you can still tell them all about why they're filling it out and put it at the bottom too. So make these things that you're trying to achieve really visible and easy to get. Don't bury it 4 clicks deep, or even just embed that survey at the top of the site. Put the same survey or a button to launch the same survey at the bottom of the site. Multiple places. You want people to see these things and remember them. The attention span is short. Be specific. Use plain language, remembering your audience. Leverage timelines to drive urgency. We're going to reduce your time and traffic by 5 minutes this year. Not, people can get lost with, well, it's the 20-year plan. Okay, I'll check back in 10 years. But timelines are great, and milestones, even if it is a 20-year plan, what are we going to achieve this year? What are we going to achieve in 6 months? So that's useful. So let's say the use case of you want to gather donations. That's great. So what times are the donation centers open? Are they open on the weekends? Do they close for the holidays? Make sure to give that important information to your audience that they need to know. As much as possible, don't make community building a chore for the community. This is your job. If you have somewhere that your community members need to be, give them precise directions. Plug for hub events, that takes care of that for you. Make sure to let them know how they can get in touch with you if they have questions, whether it's email, phone, or app, or whatever. And not to be too blunt, but make sure to ask the question, why should they care, right? People are generous and caring, but it's helpful if you are upfront. Don't bury the lead. Personalize the impact to people upfront. Humanize. Use things like story maps to weave a narrative around your data and your statistics. This is how these things fit together. Not just these are all the disparate parts. You figure it out, and then. That will which do you think resonates more? Is it a chart of the total number of mosquito sleeping nets distributed, or is it a picture of a family whose daughter is now healthy and safe, the number of nets distributed? It's like really personalizing it. This initiative that we're working on, that we want you as a community member to participate in, is having this desired outcome, right? So it's not just mosquito nets, it's someone who is healthy. Right, that's motivating. That's why they should participate and volunteer to distribute mosquito nets or go knocking on doors. So these details really matter. And then make sure to tell your community how you want to work with them. What are your expectations from this community? Do you want them to just email you with questions? That's cool. Put a mail to link and tell them to email you if they have questions. If you want them to take a survey, make sure to book in your content with the ask, or so embedding the survey or having a button right there at the top and the bottom. Do you want them to attend events and raise money? Well, launch events and don't just expect people to find them blindly, but feature them prominently on your websites and your social media channels. You really have to kind of push outward. So the golden rule of community building is that the value offered to your community members should be more than the effort required. So simple scenario, you want to poll your community around 3 project options. Have have a single poll page with a detailed subpage for each project, place a poll at the bottom of each page. Is this a good trade for the community? Is it no, because the effort required is perceived to really outweigh the immediate value. I've had to read through all these things. We see this with like terms of services agreements. Unless you're a lawyer, when was the last time you actually read through all of that? You're not putting the things that you need to put up front, right? So no one ever reads through that. So don't be terms of service. Remember that incentives matter, right? So if you can't align the audience incentives to what you're asking for, then you're going to have a really hard time building a community and getting input and volunteering from that community if their incentives are not aligned. Let's say we are successful though, and we start to see a community form, right? So you've drummed up some engagement. You're starting to see community form, but communities can be fickle, so you got to work to keep them around. At this point, we're talking about really kind of pushing the next levels of engagement along the maturity path, and we need to sustain the community. So let's talk about some of these things in detail. There's some things in common about them, right? Look at the highlighted words. Sustained, frequent, regular, right? It takes work. Sustaining a community is a contact sport. You have to be involved. You have to be consistent. Pun intended. Community isn't for everyone, and that's, sorry, I'm skipping ahead a slide. Community is not set it and forget it, right? So regular interaction is key. But it's not for everyone, and that's okay. If you're looking to take advantage of the benefits of community, though, we have tools that will help you build and sustain it. Many of which you already know and love. Popular options like Survey123, Story Maps, Web App Builder, ArcGIS Solutions, many others, right? So we try to build these into the templates and integrate them well into our sites and pages. So if you want to embed a survey, you want to embed an app, the initiative, if you remember, is just the website is just the front page, right? You're really leveraging all these other tools in there. You can allow your community members to follow your initiative, and then you've got kind of a pool of receptive people. They've come and they've raised their hand and said that they're interested in participating. These with initiative followers, you could see who's following your initiatives. You can invite them to work with you in trusted collaborations. So maybe you've got some repeat volunteers that are kind of developing some expertise. The Hub product will actually let you work with them in a trusted context. Events are a really key part as well of bringing together in the real world. This isn't just community building isn't just a digital enterprise. Just thinking about how do you maximize events, right? So a good event has really great notice and communications. So invites and save the dates. People are not going to be surprised, that the event is tomorrow if you've already been reaching out to them. It's got the logistics figured out. How are they going to get there? Do they need directions? The event will start on time. A little bit of ceremony, introductions. What's the point of being here? But not too much. A place for people to interact with you, but with each other as well. These are people that are coming out for a specific cause. They're probably going to have a lot to share with each other. And make sure to make time for networking and reception. Build that in. Be there early so that people can come talk to you, and be there late so people can talk to you after. The people that stay behind, just like the people that stay behind in our talks here, have really interesting perspectives and questions, and really help you with your work. You don't have to have the perfect content before you schedule an event, but creating one and having on the calendar helps you, drive the initiative production internally and forces you to, compile your story and your content. Just like volunteering for talks makes us work on these things, right? Put it on the calendar, force yourself to do a good job and get it done. Hub messages are another tool that you can use, communicating to your Hub followers that let you reach out to your community. Send emails to anyone in your Hub, or people that are specifically, following a given initiative. Remember, your Hub can have many initiatives. People that are attending events, tools like batch selection, so you can send your message to 1 or 1,000 people and keep your followers, your initiative followers, in the loop. And we have expanded our Hub capabilities to pair with these tools. When they're used together, you can bring about sustained interaction. So leveraging the full gamut of that one-way communication, feedback and surveys, events, messages, and followers, kind of bringing all these things together is how you kind of achieve that sustained community interaction. When this happens, it's great, but it may look like it takes a lot, and people literally get PhDs in this stuff. But by taking on kind of the journalist mindset and leveraging the tools of ArcGIS Hub, you can get started. And that initial start is what will get you on the road to having a great community. So I want to talk about just one initiative where we have worked closely with U.S. Forest Service on feds feed families. So it's a federal campaign. It's been around for several years. It aims at restocking food banks when their shelves are at their lowest during the summer months. It's kind of a grassroots campaign. The initial directive came from leadership, but it's been kind of adopted really by individuals. So U.S. Forest Service got involved when they realized that they could leverage the power of their GIS and make this more successful. So they wanted to make sure that people could easily find the disparate volunteering opportunities. They wanted, to be able to host these. And then they leveraged a series of configurable apps and then turned to Hub. The use of the Hub site capability made it really easy for them to create a very explicit user experience. Why, how to get involved, report contributions, and see results. And then they turned to the Hub's initiatives to better engage with the community. So their first process was to understand who their community was, right? So ultimately, the intent for this initiative was to make it easy for the community to find and host events. It was centered around the stakeholders, the participants themselves, and the event hosts. Other stakeholders should be involved, but the keys here were these two, the event participants and the event hosts. So the goal was to make people participate as much as they could. Because this particular campaign is volunteer-based, so we needed to make sure that if someone had extra time or extra food in their garden, they could easily find the right venue to donate. And this is why the Forest Service leaned on Hub events. It allowed them to easily expose the event information in their site and enable participants to sign up for events. So hosts could easily keep track of who was participating and contact those people as needed. This is, look at the Hub event page here. And then this is a look at the Hub event, of the Fed's feed family sites. So I'm going to just swap over. Cool. So this is the Fed Feeds Family sites. You can see it's really highly customized. First glance, no idea this is ArcGIS anything. It's got their own navigation involved, and everything leads to other site or other pages and things within the application. So remembering, one of the key things they wanted to do was get people to host events, right? So submitting an event. Right there, first button at the top of the page. A little snafu. 1 second. Sorry. Cool. Yeah. So you can see they've got their message right out front and center. Right. What is feeds families? There's that one sentence right there. That explains it, and then a little bit more detail. And here is why, how to get involved, want to view the results, see how people are doing, and again, there's that bookend that give feedback. We can view the results of donations and success stories. All of these are powered actually by data that's in their organization. They're tracking this data using familiar ArcGIS tools. And see what are these recent donations, and this is live, right? So 92,000 pounds of food has been donated. That's really meaningful. See how things are going by department. So they've really kind of highly customized this to work for their use case. So looking at things like get involved, find the event near you. Remembering personalize this. If it's all about that person and where they are, here's how they can find what is near them, get the geolocation built in, finding upcoming events. Looks like we don't have any scheduled right now, but that's okay. Submit one, right? It's right there. So you see these elements are put into multiple places. They're not just on the homepage, they're not just in the top bar. They're situated in the right context. Here are all the events. Didn't see one that you like in your area? Well, host one, right? That's right there. And here are the partners that they can work with. So this initiative site is a really good example of something that brings together all of the different components of ArcGIS Hub, initiatives, sites, pages, apps, surveys, dashboards. It's literally all brought together. And you can see from the results that it's actually, it's not that the website is having the effect, but the overall initiative is working. They are gathering a lot of food, and they can show that, and this is helping drive that. Cool. Right, so, as you can see, Hub is a really powerful tool which extends your existing GIS infrastructure and investment into those next stages of engagement beyond just one-way information sharing. And like most things, you get out what you put into it, but if you use some of the themes that we talked about, you should be on a really good path. So, speaking of getting started, we ask, what can I do right now? Just showing, what's available in our different basic, premium and enterprise offerings. So sites and pages are available everywhere. And then open data is part of Hub Basic. And then at the premium level, you get access to initiatives, events, messages, community identities. Really just get started with the sites and pages that all of you in this room already have. Pretty sure if you're here, you've got that already. And if you want to know more about any of these other initiatives or events and things like that, we're going to be at the booth all week until late at night, every night apparently. Bring snacks. So I just want to thank you for spending the time. I think it's awesome that you guys are here working on how to, sustain a community and engagement. That's really going the next level from just, I want to get my GIS data out there so people can use it. You're really actually trying to achieve your organization's missions and goals, at least thinking about it by the very fact that you're sitting here. So I really commend you with that, and I want you to think about the hub as kind of the paint and canvas. Right? This is a tool for you to express your creativity. So just remember some of the takeaways. Know your audience. practice some of those journalistic habits like 5 Ws and how. Leverage the initiative organizational framework. So listen, inform, monitor. Those are the steps that we've put out there as kind of the basic building blocks. Remember that consistency is key, and that the value that you offer should be greater than the effort required. With that, I should mention, please take the survey on our app, and I'll open it up to any questions that you might have. So the question is, to get started, you just need ArcGIS Online. To get started with sites and pages and open data, which are the first step of that public communication. Yeah, if you have ArcGIS Online, you have ArcGIS Hub Basic, and you can start publishing as many sites, pages as you want. Yep. All right, well, if there are no other questions, thank you very much for coming. Again, I'll be at the booth the rest of the week.